Hi, so today's video hopefully will be short. I'm doing a cycle and talk, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Today I, for some reason, was thinking, at the beginning of the day I was doing some work, but at the same time I was listening to this webinar, and it was one of my friends had invited me along or suggested I watch it, and it was a guy speaking about dreams and trying to understand the dream world and what dreams are about and all that sort of thing. And so my friend suggested it, so I clicked interested and I signed up, and it was free to attend, so I did it. And it was on this morning my time, it was on last night Monday time in the US. But it was quite a good speech. The guy spoke quite politely, and he was quite knowledgeable, and he mentioned a whole bunch of things about dreams, but he didn't really teach me anything that I didn't already know. But he did inform us about how different cultures and religions and beliefs, how different people understood dreams and interacted with the dream world, like very broadly. He didn't go into any details. He just gave us a very high-level summary of all the different things we can consider when thinking about dreams and the dream world and the different states of dreams. So that was all well and good. Like I said, I didn't feel like I learned anything new, but it was interesting to hear different people throughout history, different cultures and religions and stuff throughout history, sort of coming to similar understandings as the way that I sort of feel like I see things in the world. Some of the things I talk about or I feel or I know or whatever, they were sort of like kind of confirmed in a way. Well, they're sort of, he mentioned these different ideas, and they were phrased in different ways, and they were using titles and names and things, some which I hadn't heard before. But they're basically the same ideas, just presented in a slightly different way. So that was interesting. So that was today, and then later on, so this afternoon I was cycling. So this afternoon I was cycling, and I was going through my neighbourhood, and I don't know why, like how I got to this particular train of thought, but in my mind I was imagining this one guy from this YouTube channel that I watch occasionally, and I was thinking about him, and then also thinking about others and the way that they deal with negative situations. A lot of these people that sort of present themselves to the world as people to follow or people that we should listen to or whatever, they like to present themselves as this perfect image, or they try to project a perfect image of they're so pure, or they want to be so pure, and everything is so perfect, they can't do anything wrong. But there's a lot of sort of fakeness to it, it seems, where they try to perhaps pretend they're something that they aren't necessarily always are. So for example, people will be like, oh, namaste, and then they're all love and light, and then say everything's great, and it doesn't matter what the situation, they always put a positive spin on it. But really, you know that those people, I don't know, you just get the sense that maybe everything's not necessarily right, but they still try to present themselves in that way. And anyway, what I was thinking in my mind, and what the topic of this video just pounced into my mind while I was cycling, I was like, the topic was, it's okay to not be okay. And what I mean is, like, you don't necessarily need to be perfect and everything's good all the time. It's okay to have moments of like things are going wrong, everything's upside down, I don't know what I'm doing, who am I? You know, like, you don't have to be perfect all the time, and you don't have to pretend that you are necessarily. You don't have to, you can if you want to, I guess, but like, you don't have to project yourself, present yourself as this perfect model of everything's great. Maybe you can choose not to share the bad things if you wish. If you look at like social media, like Facebook and stuff, you know, most people, they only just choose to share the good stuff, and so it looks like everything is always good in their world. But they could be going through hard times, and you wouldn't know about it because they don't share it. And if you don't meet up with in person or talk to them on the phone or whatever, then you don't know what's going on in their mind. Everything might be terrible for them, but if they only just share once a month something great that they're doing, then it might look like everything is rosy in their life. So you know, I guess it's okay to not be okay, and sometimes it's okay to just to admit to others who you really are, or what you're really feeling, or you don't have to always try so hard to present yourself in a certain light. And I guess this sort of idea it's probably not an uncommon idea, what I'm saying today. I guess, you know, many people have had that realization in their life, and I think it's part of growing up. I think a lot of people will learn that when they get to a certain age anyway. But it seems like a lot of people haven't learned that even when they have grown up. So maybe that'll only hit them when they're 90 years old or something, you know. But yeah, especially people online who present themselves in a certain way. I don't know if sometimes it looks fake, or you can feel that it's fake. And for example, this guy this morning on the dreams, while he was talking and presenting to everyone else, it was all nice, everything's fine, he's talking politely, talking quietly, and he's in his zone, he's having fun, so that's fine. But then later on, people were asking questions, and you could see some of the questions he felt, I don't know, he visibly looked uncomfortable, and I couldn't tell exactly what was going through his mind or going through what he was feeling, but you could see him physically shifting around and trying to hold himself composed, trying to hold himself to not show his emotions and whatever. This one lady's talking about, in a dream, she dreamt that her father was going to pass away, within a week, and then it actually happened. A few days later, he went from being perfectly healthy and he's walking around, and maybe not perfectly healthy, but he looked healthy enough, and he's walking around and everything seems fine. So all of a sudden he's dying, and then he's dead within a few days. And this lady, she seemed calm enough about the way she was talking, but she's obviously been through a bit of stress with that situation, and I don't know if she's fully dealt with it herself already. So the way that the guy reacted was a little bit too fake, I thought, in the way that he responded to her. He didn't really let his guard down and talk and be genuine in his response. He kind of like felt like he was holding back a little bit and had to sort of like constrain himself and just say certain things. I don't know, that's just the way it felt anyway. But overall, I thought he was a good speaker. I liked what he said. But yeah, it was just something I noticed. Anyway, all right, so I've gone on for 10 minutes, but this afternoon, I hadn't thought through all of this stuff, but I'd spent about maybe 10 seconds instead of 10 minutes. I'd thought about this for about 10 seconds in my mind. And in my mind, I'd gone blump, 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 blump. And I thought, why don't I make a video saying it's okay to not be okay? And then I basically thought about the same sort of things that I'd just been telling you, but not in all that detail. And as I was thinking that, and I was cycling, I was riding up this hill, and there was this guy who was unpacking his car, and in front of him next to the house was this other guy who was looking at me. And as I got closer, I could realize he was like a mentally handicapped in some way sort of guy. Like he sort of had a lot of his senses, but perhaps wasn't he wouldn't have gone through school or high school like the rest of us would have, put it that way. Like he would have gone to some sort of special school for people with special needs. So when I was very young and I encountered people like that, they didn't really bother me. I just sort of, I don't know, just treated them like anyone else. But then from a certain age onwards, I don't know what age, it must have been maybe 8 or 7 or something. From a certain age onwards, I had like this programming in me, or this program that I'm running, or this cultural thing. I don't know what it is, but like I would always find it uncomfortable to look at certain people or know how to approach them. And like my brain says it's okay, like they're okay, but then I don't know, just something inside me just said like look away, like don't look at them, don't talk to them, don't. And I don't know what it is, but there's no need to, like no reason for me to be like that. But anyway, so today as I was riding up this hill, it's a long story, I'm sorry. As I was riding up this hill, I saw this guy and the other guy, and one of them looked like he had some sort of handicap. But, I thought, just let it go, just try and be like naturally, just try and let go of the programming basically within me, and just try and be more of my pure sort of self, like myself without all the attachments and without all the programming attached to my mind. And so I just let myself just look at them and smile. And as I came along, the guy who was unpacking his car, he sort of looked at me and he said, "Oh, it's a bit of a hot day to be cycling." And I'm like, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah." And we're talking about for about 5 or 10 seconds. And as we're talking, he drops his bag and all of these golf balls come flying out. So he was basically, he'd been to the golf course or something, and he was unpacking his car, but this massive bag, and maybe like 20 golf balls all came flying out. And I tried to block them with my bike to stop the golf balls from flying, but of course the golf balls they bounced and they went through the spokes of my bike. So I only managed to, even though my bike was completely in the way and I should have really stopped a lot of golf balls, my bike only stopped about 2 golf balls and the rest of them went flying down the hill. But the guy was very funny about it. Like he was like, "Oh, whoops, that's a bit silly of me. I should have really closed the bag." Like he said something like that, something to that effect. and he was basically very jovial. He was very he made a joke of it. It didn't really bother him, whereas for a lot of people, maybe they go, oh, so annoying, like now I have to go pick up the golf balls, or why am I so stupid, why did I do that? Whereas this guy was like, he was okay with it. He was like, oh, whoops, that's silly of me. Oh, wow, it's all good. And then like I offered to help him pick up the golf balls, and he's like, no, you don't need to help me, I'm good, I'll go get them. And like I was on my bike, I had lots of stuff, so it was a bit physically difficult for me to go and get them, and he looked like he was going to get them in no time. And the other guy who was with him was like, do you want help? So like he offered to help as well, but the guy's like, no, it's all good. So he went and got his golf balls by himself, and he was fine. Like he dealt with that situation so easily, and for him it was nothing, and he was still happy, he was still in a good mood. So the reason I'm saying all of this is that I don't think it's any coincidence that this occurred, because this guy dropped his golf balls, and the guy that I listened to on the YouTube channel from the very, very beginning of this video, who I was thinking about like a couple of seconds earlier, before I started talking to this guy, he has lots of stories about golf balls. Like all the time, he's like, it's funny game of life that we live in, and he's like, one of the biggest spiritual games for me is golf. Like there's so many spiritual like learnings in the world through golf. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing to say. Like I'm not a golf player, so whatever. If he gets something out of it, then good. But basically he was all about golf. And then when this guy in my reality in front of me dropped his golf balls, like as I was thinking about the other guy who plays golf and talks about golf and his stories and his things, and that guy I quite like listening to him, because he's not fake, and he if there's something negative that happens, he'll say it, and then how he dealt with it, and then he'll be like, okay, but then an hour later, then I was fine, and blah blah blah. Like he shows both sides of himself. He shows all of himself. Like he doesn't really, unless it's something private, he doesn't really hold it back. He just expresses it himself honestly and genuinely, and you can tell that it's genuine. Like you can really tell that it's actual genuine. It's him, his experiences, and I like that. But yeah, I thought it was no coincidence, or a funny coincidence, or something that the golf balls incident happened in my physical reality at the same time I was thinking about that guy who likes to talk about his golf balls. So the other thing was, for me, it's like, how do I put these two together? How do I triangulate what I'm thinking and what I'm experiencing? And one of the conclusions I came to straight away, like within a moment, was that some people are naturally nice. It's not that everyone is always putting on an act. Even though there are people online who present themselves in a positive way when they're not necessarily always positive, when they might be being fake, but there are some people who are genuinely nice. And this guy who's unpacking his car and getting his bag out and dropping all these golf balls, he seemed genuinely nice. He was genuinely helping this, I don't know if it's his son or if he's the carer or whatever, this guy who was mentally handicapped, for one. And then secondly, when something bad happened, he didn't respond in a negative way. He just brushed it off, and for him it was very easy to do so, and he genuinely turned it into a joke, because it was really not really a big deal for him. So that was my connection between the two events. And then the second connection, which I thought of about 10 minutes later, was the second connection was that the mentally handicapped guy was there, and I myself had previously had all this programming, and I myself was in that position where I was trying to be positive, but I wasn't being fake. For me, it was more like the opposite. Like I was letting go of my fake self, which I always usually present, and which is built into me almost. I was just kind of like letting go and just allowing myself to be more of my genuine, what's inside me, soul sort of self, which is just, being nice to just, being okay with everyone, really, like not really being concerned about anyone in particular. That's sort of, I feel like that's more like who I am. And I was letting go. I was attempting to let go, and I was sort of letting go a little bit of that programming that I grew up with. And it's not something you can just let go in an instant, but permanently, because it's something that will come back. It's so ingrained into us that our brain just keeps wanting to do the same thing over and over again. So it's a matter of practice. Like I'll have to go through the same scenario 100 times before perhaps I finally let go of that programming completely. But at least it was good. It was a good practice thing. So yeah, the other learning from that situation was that it's not that everyone is necessarily fake, and it's also okay to be okay. So not only is it okay to not be okay, it's also okay to be okay. I had put myself to a situation where it was okay to not be okay with acting funny around other people, whereas really it's okay for me to be okay with just being myself around them. So there you go. Does that make sense? Have I confused you totally?